The rooster crows in the pale light of dawn, its cry echoing over the damp thatched rooftops of a tiny medieval village. A soft mist curls through the fields, where dew clings to every blade of grass. The air is heavy with the smell of wood smoke and earth. You blink awake on a straw-stuffed mattress, rough wool scratching your skin. The day has begun not for a noble, not for a knight, but for you, a simple peasant living centuries ago. Tonight, we'll travel back in time together. You'll walk barefoot across the cold dirt floor, feel the heat of the hearth, hear the chatter of neighbors, and live one quiet, humble day in the rhythm of the Middle Ages. Welcome to History for Sleep, where stories of the past are told softly to help you drift away into calm, gentle dreams. If you enjoy falling asleep to these peaceful glimpses of history, take a moment to subscribe and join our growing community of dreamers who love history as much as rest. And in the comments, tell us what other times or people you'd like to live as next, or what time you usually listen. Do you drift off right away, or stay awake for the whole story? Close your eyes and let the sounds of the past surround you. Imagine the wooden walls of your cottage, the faint crackle of a fire, and the distant toll of a church bell calling the faithful to morning prayer. The air is cool, the sky gray-blue, and the first light of dawn stretches across your small world of fields, family, and faith. This is not a story of kings or battles, but of quiet endurance, of hands roughened by labor, hearts bound by duty, and a life measured by the sun's slow journey across the sky. Let's step back into that world now. As you breathe deeply, let your thoughts slow. The day of a medieval peasant is about to begin. The first sounds are faint, the shifting of straw beneath you, the sigh of wind sneaking through the cracks in the wooden walls, the soft breathing of those sleeping nearby. The air smells of smoke, wool, and the faint sweetness of dried herbs hung above the bed to keep away pests and spirits alike. It's cold, and for a moment you hesitate to leave the warmth of the furs. But dawn is close, and in this life, no one sleeps long past the first light. You share your cottage with your family, perhaps 6 of you in total. The space is small, just one room with a hearth at its center. There's no privacy here, only a shared warmth, a shared hunger, and a shared rhythm to life. The animals, the family's few chickens, and maybe a pig, are penned near the door, their faint rustling a reminder that they, too, must begin their day soon. You can hear the gentle breaths of your children, or perhaps your siblings, curled up beside you. It is a humble existence, but you are used to it. Every creak of the timbers, every whisper of wind through the thatch is familiar, comforting even. The fire from last night has nearly gone out, leaving only faint orange coals. Your breath clouds in the air as you move toward it, kneeling to coax the embers back to life. The wood is damp from yesterday's rain, and it smokes more than it burns. You shield your eyes as sparks jump, warming your numb fingers before the day's work begins. The first task is always the same: light, warmth, and readiness for whatever the day brings. Outside, the world is gray and quiet. A rooster cries again, more insistent this time. Somewhere beyond the fog, the manor bell will soon toll, summoning workers to the Lord's fields. The rhythm of your days belongs not to you, but to the seasons, to the soil, and to the demands of the man who owns the land you till. Still, in this moment before dawn, there is peace. The world is half asleep, and so are you, in a haze between dreams and duty. You pull on your coarse tunic, rough but sturdy, and wrap your cloak tight around your shoulders. Your feet find their way into warm leather shoes then, but better than none. The air nips at your skin as you step toward the door, each movement stirring the small cottage awake. Behind you, someone stirs, the quiet murmur of your partner or kin. There is no rush, but there is also no rest. The day must begin. As the wooden door creaks open, the outside world greets you with mist and silence. The faint orange edge of the sun glows on the horizon, promising light, warmth, and another long day of labor. You take a breath of the cold, wet air, and for a brief, still moment, you feel something close to peace, a sense that this life, though harsh, has its rhythm, its purpose, its small, quiet beauty. The first rays of dawn are weak, almost hesitant as they slip through the small, shuttered window of your cottage. The light catches the smoke that drifts lazily above the hearth, painting faint golden lines in the dim air. The smell of earth, wood, and ash is strong comforting in its familiarity. You rise fully now, shaking the sleep from your limbs, and the world begins to stir around you. A cough from the corner, the murmur of a sleepy child, the low grunt of the pig shifting in its pen near the door. Morning has arrived, whether you're ready or not. You crouch by the hearth again, feeding the revived embers with thin sticks, and bark until the fire catches. The small flame grows steadily, throwing soft light over the cottage's packed dirt floor. The warmth spreads slowly, filling the one-room home with life. Your hands are rough and scarred from years of work, but they move with practiced care. Fire is precious. It is warmth, light, and the heart of the home. Without it, the day would begin in cold misery. Your spouse or perhaps your mother moves quietly beside you, fetching the iron pot from its place near the hearth. It's blackened from years of use, its surface etched with soot and time. Into it goes a small handful of oats, perhaps a little barley, some water scooped from the bucket near the door. There's no milk, no sugar, no luxury to be found here. But the thin porridge that will come of it will be enough to still the hunger for a few hours, until the next meal can be found. A wooden spoon scrapes softly against the pot as it simmers. The sound is almost hypnotic, a rhythm as familiar as breathing. Outside, the village begins to wake as well. You can hear doors creaking open, voices calling softly, and the distant bark of a dog. A neighbor's rooster crows again, and a horse snorts from the manor stables across the field. The world feels both vast and small. Beyond your village lies the Lord's land, the forest, and the unknown, but your life is here, bound by the soil beneath your feet and the people who share it. As you prepare the morning meal, you tend to the small domestic tasks that start every day. The ashes in the hearth are pushed aside. The straw on the floor is scattered to dry. The clay pitcher is checked for water, and if it's low, a trip to the well will be needed soon. Every motion is slow, careful, purposeful. There's no need to rush. The day will be low enough. A soft knock sounds at the door your neighbor, already awake. She brings word that the steward has ordered extra hands in the fields today. It rained the night before last, and the soil is ready for plowing again. You nod, thanking her, as she moves on to the next cottage, her bare feet silent in the mud. You glance toward your simple tool's wooden rake, iron hoe, the small battered scythe leaning against the wall. They will see much use today. The porridge is ready, thin but warm. You ladle portions into small wooden bowls, passing them to those gathered around the fire. The warmth of the meal spreads through you, dull but comforting. You chew slowly, savoring the quiet. Conversation is sparse, just a few murmured words about the weather, the harvest, or the state of a neighbor's cow. These are the things that matter most here, the threads that weave daily life together. When the bowls are empty, you rinse them quickly with water from the bucket, setting them aside for later. Then it's time to tend to the animals. You pull on your cloak and step outside, greeted by the full brightness of morning at last. The air is damp, heavy with the smell of wet earth and hay. The sun has climbed just above the treetops, and the sky glows with pale gold light. The rooster struts proudly, as if to remind you that he was the first to rise. You scatter a handful of grain for the chickens, who cluck eagerly, their feathers glistening with dew. The pig snuffles impatiently, nosing the wooden trough for scraps. You pat its coarse back, speaking softly though it cannot understand. These creatures are your livelihood, your wealth, your small comfort in a hard world. You depend on them as they depend on you. As you finish your chores, the church bell tolls in the distance, slow, deep, and steady. It calls not just to prayer, but to labor. For peasants, faith and work are entwined. Both must be given daily. You glance toward the narrow dirt path that leads to the fields, already seeing figures moving along it, neighbors with tools slung over their shoulders, their silhouettes soft in the morning mist. You take one last look at your cottage, the heart of all you own, and close the door behind you. The day has truly begun, and with it, another small chapter in a life of quiet endurance. The first light of the sun touches your face as you step onto the path, and though the work ahead will be hard, there's a calm acceptance in your heart. This is the way it has always been. This is life. The path between your cottage and the small animal pen is slick with dew, every step making a soft squelch in the dark soil. The air smells of hay and manure and the faint sweetness of morning mist. Your breath fogs in front of you as you move, wooden bucket in hand, toward the animals that depend on you. The sky is pale blue now, streaked with thin clouds, and the birds hidden in the hedgerows are beginning their morning chorus. It is a sound you have heard every day of your life, a quiet, persistent reminder that the world keeps turning no matter the weight of one person's labors. The animals greet you in their own way. The pig lets out a sharp grunt, impatient for scraps. The hens cluck and scratch at the ground near your feet, wings fluttering when you come too close. You move with steady, unhurried motions, scattering a handful of feed and checking the rough wooden troughs. You've learned to keep a careful balance. Too little feed, and they grow weak. Too much, and you'll have none left for tomorrow. Every grain matters. You toss a few vegetable peels to the pig, who digs in greedily, snorting with satisfaction. The sound makes you smile, though the smile doesn't last long. There's work to be done. Beyond the pen, you hear the low moo of a cow belonging to your neighbor, Thomas. He's already at work, milking by hand in the dim light. You can see his hunched figure outlined against the sunrise, the faint sound of milk striking the wooden pail steady and rhythmic. You nod a greeting when he looks up, and though you are too far to hear, you know what he'll say. A fine morning for work. Every morning is a fine morning for work, because there is no other kind. You walk toward the well next, its wooden frame worn smooth from years of use. The rope creaks as you lower the bucket, the echo of water sloshing faintly below. When it rises again, the cool liquid glints in the sunlight, perfectly clear. You take a moment to drink, wiping your mouth with your sleeve. The water is cold, grounding, waking you fully. You pour the rest into a smaller bucket for the animals, watching the chickens crowd around to peck at the damp ground. The chores continue, checking the small garden patch behind your cottage, where a few hardy plants push through the soil. Onions, leeks, and a handful of herbs cling stubbornly to life despite the chill. The harvest is meager, but it will make the difference between hunger and survival in the coming months. You pull a few weeds, adjust the sticks supporting a young cabbage, and glance at the sky again. The sun has risen higher now, brightening the fields that stretch beyond the village. The faint toll of the manor's bell reaches your ears, deep and deliberate. It's time. You return inside briefly, setting down the empty bucket and grabbing your tools. The side's blade catches the light, nicked and dulled by long use. You test its edge with your thumb before sliding it into a loop of rope at your waist. The wooden handle of your hoe rests against your shoulder. These are your companions for the day, as much a part of you as your hands or feet. Your family moves about the cottage quietly behind you. A small child yawns, rubbing sleep from their eyes. Your partner adjusts the cloak around your shoulders and hands you a small piece of coarse bread, hard from yesterday, but enough to carry you through until midday. There are no long goodbyes here, just nods, quiet prayers, and the unspoken hope that the day will bring no trouble. You take a final look around the small room, letting your eyes linger on the flicker of the hearth, the hanging herbs, and the patch of sunlight creeping across the floor. Then you step out once more into the fresh air. Outside, the village is fully awake. Smoke curls from chimneys. Dogs bark and children run barefoot through the mud, laughing as they chase one another before their mothers call them back. The smell of baking bread drifts faintly from one of the cottages, a rare indulgence for those who can spare the grain. In the distance, you can see others gathering near the fields, their silhouettes dark against the golden light of morning. You fall into step beside them, the rhythm of your tools clinking faintly as you walk. The path to the fields winds between low fences and patches of grass where wildflowers still cling to the edges. You can hear the steady hum of insects rising as the day warms, and somewhere far off, a shepherd's whistle cuts through the stillness. The air feels alive, vibrating with the quiet energy of the morning. For a moment, you forget the ache waiting in your muscles, the endless repetition of this life. There's beauty here, hidden beneath the hardship, a rhythm that feels ancient and unbroken. You pass the small chapel on the edge of the village, its wooden cross darkened by age. You pause briefly, touching your fingers to your chest in silent reverence. A simple gesture, but one that steadies your heart. Faith is a comfort, even if it brings little change. You whisper a quick prayer, not for riches or freedom, but for strength. Strength to see the day through. Strength to keep your loved ones fed and safe. The fields stretch before you now, vast and open beneath the morning sky. Rows of soil, dark and damp, wait to be turned. You can already see others, bent low to the earth, their movements slow but steady, the first rhythm of labor echoing across the land. The sound of iron striking earth fills the air like a distant drumbeat. You tighten your grip on your hoe and breathe deeply, feeling the familiar pull in your shoulders. This is your world. This is your life. As you step into the field, the sun finally breaks through the clouds, casting warm light over everything. The mist begins to fade, revealing the green of the grass and the soft sway of distant trees. You plant your feet in the soil and begin to work. The sound of your tool cutting through the ground joins the steady chorus of the others. Another day has begun in the life of a medieval peasant, and though the work is hard and endless, there is a strange peace in its simplicity. The world is quiet, the air pure, and for now, that is enough. The morning air is sharp and clear, the sun now a pale coin in a sky brushed with thin clouds. The chill of dawn has faded, replaced by the first warmth of day. Your back aches already from the first hours in the fields, muscles tightening from the familiar labor of bending, lifting, and striking the soil. You pause for a moment, wiping sweat from your brow with the back of your hand. The scent of earth clings to your skin, and a fine dust coats your clothes. You glance up as a soft bell rings in the distance, the signal for a short break. It's time for breakfast, a momentary comfort in a long day. You set down your tools carefully, leaning your hoe against a fence post, and walk toward the small cluster of trees at the edge of the field. Others are already gathered there, men and women alike, their faces flushed and hands calloused. They sit in small groups on the grass, laughing quietly, the sound blending with the rustle of leaves above. For all the hardship of life here, these moments of shared rest hold a quiet beauty, a kind of peace born from routine and companionship. You reach into the small cloth sack hanging from your belt. Inside lies your breakfast, a chunk of coarse rye bread, dark and heavy, baked days ago. It's rough to the touch, the crust hard enough to scrape your fingertips. Beside it, wrapped in a scrap of linen, is a small piece of cheese, dry but rich enough to give a little flavor. You tear the bread slowly, using your teeth to soften it as you chew. Each bite tastes of earth and grain and effort. There's no sweetness here, no luxury, but there is nourishment, and in this life, That is enough. You take a sip from the small wooden flask at your side. Inside is ale, weak, barely more than water flavored with malt. But it is safer than drinking from the streams or wells that carry the sickness of the village. The ale is slightly sour, but it fills your belly and warms your throat. You savor it, letting the faint bitterness linger on your tongue. Around you, the others do the same, each lost in their own quiet moment of reflection. A woman nearby hums a tune, a slow, haunting melody that sounds older than anyone present. It drifts softly through the morning air, mingling with the rustle of the leaves. Some join in, their voices low and uneven, but filled with an earthy warmth. The song tells of good harvests and gentle rains, of the hope that each season will bring enough to see them through the next winter. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the melody settle deep in your chest. For just a breath, the burdens of life feel lighter. When the song fades, conversation takes its place. Simple talk of weather, of animals, of who might wed come spring. You listen quietly, nodding where needed, content to let the words wash over you like the soft hum of bees. Someone jokes about the steward's poor temper, and laughter ripples through the group. Even in a world of endless toil, humor survives. It is a small rebellion against hardship, a reminder that the soul can endure more than the body ever could. Your gaze drifts across the field, where a line of distant trees marks the edge of the manor's land. Beyond that lies the forest, deep, dark, and full of mysteries. The peasants speak of it often, half in fear and half in longing. There are stories of spirits and wolves, of outlaws and hidden hermits. To wander there alone would be dangerous, yet something about it calls to you, the freedom, the untamed silence, the promise of a world untouched by the Lord's reach. But such thoughts are fleeting. Your life belongs here, among the furrows and fences, under the same sun that rises and sets over the Lord's hall. You finish your bread, brushing crumbs from your tunic, and take another sip of ale. The flask is light now, and you know it must last the rest of the day. You tighten the cap and tie it back to your belt. Around you, the others begin to stir, rising slowly and stretching sore limbs. The short rest has given them new strength, though everyone knows it will fade before long. The day is only beginning. Before you return to work, you look down at your hands, rough, cracked, and darkened with soil. These hands have tilled the land, built the cottages, fed the animals, and held the small comforts of life. They tell a story older than you, one passed down through generations of laborers whose names are long forgotten. You flex your fingers, feeling both pride and resignation. This is your lot, but it is also your purpose. The bell rings again, deeper this time, and voices quiet. Tools are lifted, and the soft murmur of conversation gives way to the rhythm of work once more. As you step back into the field, the sun glints off the blade of your hoe, and you breathe deeply, filling your lungs with the scent of grass and soil. There is peace here, a humble, enduring peace that asks for nothing and gives just enough to keep you going. As the morning passes into midday, you move in rhythm with the others, each motion steady, deliberate, and sure. The fields stretch wide before you, the harp your world, and though the work is endless, you find comfort in the certainty of it. The land provides, and in return you give your labor. It is a quiet exchange, as old as time itself, and for now it is enough. The morning mist still clings to the ground, curling in slow tendrils that fade with every minute the sun climbs higher. You set out once more toward the far fields, your tools slung across your shoulder, the damp earth soft beneath your worn shoes. The air is cool, crisp, and filled with the scent of turned soil, smoke, and distant wood fires. Around you, the quiet murmur of the village fades behind as the open land spreads wide, and for a brief moment you can hear nothing but the wind. It sweeps across the meadows, carrying the faint sounds of birds calling to one another and the distant bleating of sheep from the hillside. Each step you take leaves a faint print in the mud, a small mark that will be gone by tomorrow. The sun, though bright, offers little warmth yet, and the chill of morning clings to your skin like a breath that refuses to fade. Still, the movement stirs your blood, and soon your breath comes in slow, steady clouds that rise and vanish in the air. Ahead, the other peasants move in a loose line, men and women alike, bound to the same rhythm, the same unending labor. Their figures cut soft silhouettes against the pale horizon, each carrying tools, baskets, or bundles of twine. You recognize most of them, neighbors, friends, faces you've seen since you were a child. Some walk quietly, lost in their own thoughts. Others talk softly, voices rising and falling like the wind. You catch snippets worries about the weather, talk of the Lord's steward, and rumors of a wandering friar passing through nearby towns. These small exchanges are the pulse of life, brief but grounding, reminders that even in a life of hardship, the heart seeks connection. The road narrows into a rutted path lined with hedges and wildflowers. Dew drips from the leaves as you brush past, cool droplets landing on your hands. The path turns downward, crossing a shallow stream that glimmers in the sunlight. You pause for a moment at its edge, bending to rinse your hands in the cold water. The chill bites into your fingers, sharp but refreshing. For a moment, you simply watch the current twist around your reflection, fleeting, rippling, then gone. You rise and keep walking, your mind drifting between the quiet rhythm of your steps and the tasks waiting ahead. The Lord's fields stretch across the valley, vast and orderly. Each section is marked by wooden stakes or low stone walls, reminders of boundaries and ownership. The land feels endless when you look upon it, yet none of it belongs to you. Your labor will till it, seed it, and harvest it, but the grain will fill someone else's granary. Still, you work, because survival demands it, and because there has never been another way. As the group reaches the edge of the fields, you can already see others who arrived before you. They've begun clearing the furrows, their motions slow and steady. The sound of metal striking earth carries across the open space, dull, rhythmic, comforting in its constancy. It's a music of its own, one that fills the long hours and keeps time with the rising and setting of the sun. You take a moment to rest your tools against a fence post, stretching your arms and breathing deeply. The air smells of grass and soil, rich and damp. You feel the faint ache in your shoulders begin to fade as your muscles warm. Around you, the others do the same, checking the sharpness of their blades, adjusting their belts, tying back hair, or wrapping cloths around their heads to ward off the sun. Everyone moves with the slow, practical grace of those who have done this all their lives. A shout breaks the quiet. The steward has arrived. He rides a sturdy brown horse, his cloak trimmed with rough fur, his expression sharp as he surveys the workers. His voice carries easily, commanding and brisk. He gives orders about which plots are to be turned today, where stones must be cleared, and which patches the oxen will plow first. You and the others bow your heads briefly as he passes, though your eyes follow the movement of his horse with a quiet resentment that you never speak aloud. The steward's authority is law, and to question it is to invite trouble. When he's gone, the murmuring begins again, small, cautious words exchanged in low voices. Someone mutters about the manor taking too much this season. Another mentions a fine imposed for lateness. You listen, but you say nothing. Words are dangerous things, and even the wind can carry them to the wrong ears. You pick up your hoe, running your fingers along its handle, smooth from years of use. The weight feels familiar, reassuring even. You find your place among the others, spacing yourselves evenly across the field. Then, as one, you begin. The first strike cuts through the earth with a soft, satisfying sound. The soil gives easily after the rain, dark and fragrant, as it turns beneath your tool. You fall into rhythm, quickly swing, lift, step forward, repeat. Each motion flows into the next, your mind settling into the quiet trance of repetition. Time begins to blur, measured only by the movement of the sun and the slow gathering of warmth in your limbs. Every so often, you pause to straighten your back, glancing toward the horizon. The mist has vanished now, replaced by a wide blue sky streaked with clouds. The village looks small from here, its rooftops clustered together like a handful of stones. Beyond it, the forest stretches dark and endless. You wonder briefly what lies beyond those trees, but the thought passes as quickly as it comes. For now, this is your world, the soil beneath your feet, the sweat on your brow, and the steady rhythm of work that keeps hunger at bay. As the morning deepens, the sun grows stronger, drying the dew from the fields. The chill that once clung to the air fades completely, leaving only the scent of heat and dust. You take a slow breath, feeling both exhaustion and peace in equal measure. The day stretches long ahead, but for now, the rhythm is steady, and the work is simple. Each swing of the hoe, each turn of the soil is a heartbeat of life itself, quiet, enduring, and eternal. The sun has climbed higher now, and the morning haze has lifted, leaving the sky a clear, pale blue. The warmth settles gently over the fields, soft at first, but promising the heat that will come later. The world smells of tilled earth, sweat, and the faint sweetness of grass crushed underfoot. You grip the handle of your hoe tighter and begin again, falling into the rhythm that defines so much of your existence. Swing, lift, strike, turn. Over and over, the motion becomes mechanical, a steady pulse that keeps your mind both focused and free. The Lord's land stretches far in every direction, neatly divided into plots that mark not ownership but obligation. You work not for your own harvest today, but for the man who lives in the manor on the hill, a place you've never entered but know well by sight. Its stone walls catch the light, standing watch over the village below. Every furrow you turn, every seed you plant, is part of a debt owed to that manor. Rent for the right to exist, to have a cottage and a small patch of earth to call your own. The thought lingers for a moment, but like all thoughts of discontent, it fades into the rhythm of labor. You can feel the strain in your shoulders and back as the hours pass, muscles tightening and loosening with each motion. Sweat trickles down your neck, soaking into the rough fabric of your tunic. The work is hard, but it's work, you know. The soil here is heavy and dark, rich with the promise of harvest. You've worked this same land since you were old enough to hold a tool, learning its moods like a living thing, where it floods after rain, where the roots grow deepest, where the stones hide beneath the surface, waiting to dull your blade. There's comfort in that knowledge, a sense of belonging to the earth itself. Around you, the sounds of the field fill the air, the dull thud of tools striking soil, the creak of wooden handles, the soft murmur of voices rising and falling. Someone hums a tune, low and steady, and others begin to join in. It's not a song for joy or leisure, but for endurance, a melody to keep the body moving when the spirit begins to tire. The rhythm of the music blends with the rhythm of labor until the two are one, and you lose yourself in the motion. Now and then, a gust of wind sweeps across the field, cool and welcome. It stirs the scent of wildflowers at the field's edge, carrying a momentary breath of freshness that cuts through the heat and sweat. You pause to wipe your brow, leaning on your hoe, and glance toward the distant forest. The trees sway gently in the breeze, their green canopies shimmering in the sunlight. You imagine what it would be like to walk there, to rest in the shade without the weight of obligation pressing against your shoulders. But such thoughts are for another world, one that doesn't belong to you. A shout rings out the steward again, riding his horse along the boundary of the field. He surveys the workers, calling out commands and corrections. You lower your gaze as he passes, your movements deliberate and steady. His eyes linger on each group, making sure no one idles, no one speaks too long. He's the voice of the Lord here, the enforcer of order. When he finally rides on, the quiet murmuring resumes, a little softer now, a little warier. Everyone knows that he listens more than he lets on. By mid-morning, the sun is strong enough to cast sharp shadows across the field. The soil, damp and pliable at dawn, has begun to dry, sticking to your hands in thick clumps. Your tunic clings to your back, and your throat feels dry. Still, you work. You strike the ground again and again, each swing measured, each movement deliberate. The body finds a rhythm that carries it forward, even when the mind begins to drift. You think of home, of the small cottage with its thatched roof, of the smoke curling from the chimney when evening comes. You picture your family tending to their own chores, your spouse mending clothes by the fire, your children fetching water or feeding the animals. These thoughts bring warmth, even as the sun burns down upon you. You work for them. Every handful of grain you earn from this day will mean another week of food, another season survived. Occasionally, a voice calls across the field a friendly greeting, a question, or a warning about a stone buried in the furrow. You share a brief word or two, a small smile, before returning to the task. There's comfort in knowing that everyone here shares the same burden. The bonds of labor run deep, woven from shared hardship and quiet endurance. It's not friendship in the modern sense, but something older, simpler, a kind of solidarity born from necessity. As the hours pass, your body moves on instinct alone. The repetitive rhythm dulls the ache in your limbs and quiets the noise in your mind. The earth seems to breathe beneath your feet, and the steady thud of tools becomes a kind of heartbeat that connects you to everything around you. The fields, the people, the very passage of time itself. You don't think of the years to come, or the seasons that have passed. There is only now, only the work. The sun climbs higher, and shadows shorten. Somewhere far off, a bell rings from the manor tower, its sound carried on the wind, deep and sonorous. It's the signal that midday approaches, a small mercy that means rest, shade, and food. You straighten slowly, your back stiff, and look around. Faces glisten with sweat, clothes darkened with dust and labor. Yet there's a faint smile on more than one relief, small and quiet but real. The promise of rest is enough to keep weary hearts moving. You thrust your hoe into the soil one last time, marking your place. The sound of tools setting down fills the air, soft and familiar. For now, the land can rest, and so can you. The work will still be here when the sun moves west again, patient as always. You stretch your arms toward the sky, feeling the warmth on your skin, and breathe in deeply. The scent of earth, sweat, and sunlight fills your lungs. It is the smell of life itself. The sun now hangs high in the sky, brilliant and unrelenting. Its light spills across the fields, turning every blade of grass to gold and every droplet of sweat into a glimmering bead. The air hums with the steady drone of insects, their wings thrumming like the pulse of summer itself. You stand with your scythe in hand, the metal blade gleaming beneath the sun, its edge dulled from the morning as labor, but still sharp enough to slice through the long grass and grain. Around you, the others begin to work once more, and soon the sound fills the air, the slow, steady whisper of the scythe's arc. Sech-hk, sech-hk, sech-hk. The sound comes in waves, rhythmic and endless, each stroke a breath in the lungs of the land. You fall into motion, gripping the handle with both hands and swinging in wide, even arcs. The blade cuts through the stalks with a satisfying resistance, and they fall in neat layers at your feet. The rhythm is hypnotic, almost musical. Swing, step, breathe. Swing, step, breathe. The repetition draws you inward until all that exists is the feel of the handle, the pull in your shoulders, and the soft whisper of cut grain falling. Your clothes cling to your skin, heavy with sweat, and your throat burns with thirst. Yet the rhythm carries you forward, keeping your body moving, even as your mind drifts to a quiet, meditative calm. You think of nothing and everything the sound of the wind in the trees, the smell of fresh earth, the faces of your family back home. Time ceases to feel like hours and becomes a simple sequence of motions. The scythe song is steady, patient, ancient. All around you, others move the same way. A field of bent backs and swinging arms, each one working in unison, though no word is spoken. The swish of metal, the sigh of wind, the murmur of breath. Together, these sounds create a kind of harmony, a music of toil and persistence. It's not a song anyone will remember or record, but it is one that has filled the world for centuries, the song of survival. From time to time, someone pauses to wipe their brow, leaning on their handle, their breath heavy. You see the faint smile of shared endurance between neighbors. No one here expects the work to end, but there's comfort in the rhythm, and the knowledge that you are not alone in it. Even the steward's distant shouts fade into the background, swallowed by the endless chorus of labor. A few sparrows flutter down to the ground nearby, pecking at the fallen seeds. They hop between the cut stalks, unbothered by your movements, and you envy them their lightness. For a moment, you pause to watch them, the simplicity of their lives a balm to the weight of your own. The wind stirs again, bringing with it the faint scent of bread baking from the village, mixed with the sweetness of wildflowers. It makes you ache, not with hunger, but with a strange, wordless longing. You swing again, harder this time, cutting a swath through the tall grass. The sun beats down on your neck, and the scythe grows heavier with each motion. Still, you continue. To stop too long would mean falling behind, and no one can afford that. The steward's watchful eyes see everything, even from afar. So you keep your rhythm steady, your breath slow and even, your focus narrowed to the blade and the soil. The scythe's motion is an art in itself. You've learned to let your body move with the tool, not against it. Each swing begins with the turn of your hips, the twist of your torso, and the smooth extension of your arms. The blade glides through the stalks like water through reeds, clean and sure. When it catches on a stone or knot of roots, you feel the jolt travel up your arms, rattling your bones. You adjust, shifting your stance, finding balance again. Every movement teaches you something new about the earth beneath your feet. You pause to sharpen your blade, crouching low with the whetstone in hand. The rasp of metal against stone is sharp and precise, slicing through the drone of insects. Each stroke renews the edge, gives life back to the scythe. You test it against your thumb, not enough to cut, but enough to feel the bite. Satisfied, you stand again, roll your shoulders, and return to the field. The hours slide by like this, unnoticed. The sun arcs slowly overhead, shadows shifting with its passage. The pile of cut grain grows behind you, a testament to your labor. Your body aches, but your mind has gone quiet. The scythe's rhythm has replaced thought, turning the world into movement, breath, and sound. The distant laughter of someone stumbling, the brief curse as another blade catches a root, the low hum of a tune passed from one worker to the next stall of it, blends into the living tapestry of the field. At last, the steward's voice carries over the wind once more, announcing the midday rest. The words fall like mercy. One by one, the scythes still, their final swish fading into silence. You plant the blade upright in the soil and rest your hands on the handle, chest rising and falling with slow, heavy breaths. The silence after the rhythm feels strange, almost too quiet, as though the earth itself has stopped breathing for a moment. You wipe your forehead, smearing a line of dirt across your skin, and turn toward the shade of a nearby tree. The others follow, gathering in small groups, dropping down into the grass with sighs of relief. You sit among them, feeling the cool ground beneath your legs, the breeze brushing your face. The fields stretch before you, shimmering in the sun, a sea of gold and brown. You take a long drink of ale from your flask, the liquid warm but welcome. It tastes faintly of barley and smoke, and for a moment you let your eyes close. The day is far from over, but in this pause between labors, time feels gentle again. The sides rest, the wind softens, and you feel the deep satisfaction that comes from work well done. In the silence, the only sound is the slow rustle of the cut grain shifting in the breeze, a whisper, like the earth itself exhaling after a long, patient breath. The bell from the manor tower fades into the distance, its deep echo swallowed by the vastness of the fields. The workers, weary and sunburnt, move toward the edges of the farmland in small groups, each seeking what little shade can be found. You walk with them, your legs heavy and stiff from the long hours of labor. The air shimmers with heat now, and the horizon blurs like a mirage. Every breath feels thick with dust and sunlight, and even the insects seem slower in the midday warmth. You find a patch of shade beneath a broad oak tree, its branches wide and forgiving. The grass here is soft, pressed flat by countless peasants who have rested in the same spot across the seasons. You lower yourself slowly, setting your scythe and hoe beside you, their handles dark with sweat. The coolness of the earth seeps through your clothes, soothing your sore limbs. Around you, others are already unpacking their small meals. Rough bundles of bread, bits of cheese, a few onions, or strips of salted meat, if fortune allows. The smell of it all mingles with the scent of grass and sun-warmed soil, creating a quiet, comforting aroma of life as it is. You open your own bundle. Inside lies a piece of bread, hard and dense, and a small wedge of cheese, wrapped in cloth to keep the flies away. There's not much, but it will do. You break the bread into smaller pieces, chewing slowly, letting the dry crumbs soften with each sip of ale. The ale is warm now, but it soothes your throat, washing away the taste of dust. You eat in silence at first, eyes half closed, listening to the murmur of voices around you, the low hum of talk that drifts lazily through the heat like the song of bees. The topics are simple, but the voices are full of life. Someone complains about the steward's sharp tongue. Another jokes about how even the sun seems to serve the Lord, shining hardest when the peasants work. Laughter follows, soft but genuine. For a brief time, the field becomes a gathering of equals. No lords, no orders, no debts. Just people, sharing the moment, bound by the same hunger, the same exhaustion, the same fleeting joy in rest. A group of younger workers sits nearby, their energy not yet dulled by years of toil. They toss bits of straw at each other, teasing and laughing. One of them plucks a tune on a small wooden flute, the melody light and sweet, carrying easily on the still air. It's an old song, one passed down through generations, a tune everyone knows without needing to remember where they first heard it. Soon, someone begins to hum along, and then another joins, until a low chorus of voices fills the shade. It's a sound both weary and full of quiet contentment, the kind of song that feels like home. As you eat, your gaze drifts to the distant horizon. Beyond the rolling fields, the manor house rises in the haze, its stone walls pale against the blue sky. The flags on its towers hang limp in the still air, untouched by wind. You wonder briefly what midday must look like within those walls. Perhaps the Lord and his family are sitting at a long wooden table, eating bread still warm from the oven, drinking sweet wine instead of ale. Servants fill their cups, and the scent of roasted meat fills their hall. For a fleeting moment, envy stirs in your chest, not for their wealth, but for their ease. The absence of ache, the comfort of cool stone, and full bellies. Then, just as quickly, the thought passes. Such dreams belong to another life, another world entirely. Yours is here, beneath this tree, in this patch of shade shared among equals. You finish the last of your bread, brushing the crumbs from your lap, and stretch out your legs in the grass. The warmth of the sun seeps through the edges of the shade, casting dappled patterns across your skin. The sound of the wind through the leaves is soft and steady, like the whisper of waves on a distant shore. Your eyes grow heavy, and for a few moments you allow yourself to drift, not into deep sleep, but into that quiet space between waking and dreaming where the world feels both close and far away. In that haze, memories surface unbidden. Your mother humming as she kneaded dough by the fire, the laughter of friends long gone, the smell of harvest feasts from years when the grain was good. You can almost taste the fresh loaves, the sweetness of honey stolen from a comb, the smoke from roasting meat. Those days come rarely now, but the memory of them warms you more than the sun ever could. A gentle breeze stirs, carrying the faint scent of wildflowers from the meadow. Somewhere nearby, a bee hums past your ear, and you hear the distant splash of water as someone rinses their face in the stream. The sound is soothing, part of the rhythm of the day. Labor, rest, labor again. You sigh softly, letting your head fall back against the rough bark of the tree, feeling its solidness beneath you. For a moment, you think about how the tree has stood here for generations, watching peasants like you come and go, season after season, year after year. The thought humbles you and comforts you all at once. A voice calls your name quietly, stirring you from your thoughts. One of your neighbors, a kind-faced woman with tired eyes, offers you a small apple from her bundle, bruised and small, but a gift nonetheless. You thank her softly, taking it with a grateful nod. The fruit is tart, its flavor sharp and bright after the plainness of bread and cheese. You savor it slowly, letting the juice wash away the dryness from your mouth. When you finish, you hand her back the core, and she tosses it into the grass for the birds. The conversation around you fades again into a comfortable silence. Some have already stretched out fully, eyes closed, resting before the next bell. Others sit quietly, staring out across the shimmering fields. It is a rare moment of stillness in a life that allows so few. Then, faintly, the bell tolls again, slow, measured, inevitable. A sigh ripples through the group, a shared breath of resignation and resolve. The rest is over. The tools are lifted once more, the chatter fades, and one by one, the workers return to the sunlit fields. You rise too, brushing dirt from your clothes, feeling the stiffness in your legs as you pick up your scythe. The shade lingers behind you like a dream fading with the morning, and as you step back into the light, you know that the long afternoon awaits. But for now, you've had your moment of peace, brief, simple, and enough to keep you going. The afternoon sun leans westward, its light softening into a golden haze that blankets the fields. The air feels heavy with the slow rhythm of the day, the steady swing of tools, the murmur of voices, and the creak of wooden carts in the distance. As the hours pass, the labor takes on a quieter tone. The conversations grow more frequent, drifting easily between rows of workers. There's comfort in talking, in sharing words that make the long hours seem shorter. Gossip, laughter, small stories, all of it becomes a thread that binds the community together, stitching warmth into a life of toil. Someone nearby mentions a wedding soon to be held in the village, the blacksmith's daughter, betrothed to a miller's son from a neighboring town. You hear the story unfold in bits and pieces, each person adding their own version. One claims the dowry will include 2 hens and a piglet. Another swears that the miller's son has already built a fine wooden chest for her clothes. The talk grows livelier, and even the older workers, usually quiet, smile faintly at the tale. Weddings are rare and costly affairs, but they bring life to the village, music, food, dancing, and for a few hours, the illusion that joy outweighs hardship. A few rows away, laughter bursts out suddenly. Someone has slipped in the mud, their tunic streaked brown, and though the fall is harmless, it sparks a wave of laughter that ripples through the group. Even you can't help but smile, shaking your head as the worker stands, bowing with exaggerated dignity before returning to their task. Laughter in the fields feels different, freer, purer. It's laughter born not from ease, but from survival, a spark of light against the weight of exhaustion. For a few minutes, it echoes across the land, and the air feels lighter. You work steadily, your hands moving without thought, listening as conversations rise and fall like the wind. There's talk of the harvest to come, of whether the weather will hold, of a neighbor's cow that's gone lame. Someone mentions the tax collector's next visit, and the mood shifts for a moment, voices lowering to murmurs. The fear of owing more than one can pay is ever present. You hear one man grumble softly that he works harder each year and sees less for it. Another hushes him quickly, glancing toward the manor. Words of discontent are dangerous things. You say nothing, letting the rhythm of the hoe fill the silence instead. When the sun dips lower, a group of women carrying baskets of herbs and vegetables passes along the edge of the field, heading back toward the village. They wave as they go, their laughter carried by the breeze. Their voices mingle with the calls of children in the distance, high, clear, and full of life. The children's shouts remind you of your own youth, of running barefoot through the mud, catching frogs in the stream, and dreaming of places far beyond the forest. Back then, the world seemed vast and full of promise. Now it feels smaller, but also deeper, more familiar. There's comfort in knowing your place in it, even if it's bound by soil and sweat. As the day begins to wane, the pace of work slows. The heat fades, replaced by a gentle coolness that drifts from the woods. The light turns amber, painting the fields in shades of bronze and gold. The workers' shadows stretch long across the land, merging and overlapping. The chatter softens, replaced by the quiet rhythm of tired hands finishing the last of their tasks. You can feel the day drawing toward its end, and though your body aches, there is a kind of satisfaction in the exhaustion, a sense of having done what was needed, nothing more, nothing less. When the steward's distant voice finally calls an end to the day's labor, a quiet cheer rises among the workers. It's not loud, but it carries the weight of relief. Tools are set aside, backs are straightened, and the steady hum of the field fades into the soft sounds of evening. You gather your things, brushing dirt from your tunic, and begin the slow walk back toward the village with the others. The air is cooler now, and the scent of cut grass and wildflowers follows you as you walk. The path home is alive with chatter. The same stories told in the morning find their way back into conversation, retold with new details and laughter. Someone hums the tune that was played at midday, and a few others join in, their voices low and content. You walk beside a friend, sharing talk of the day's work, of the coming winter, of the simple dreams that keep people moving forward. A new roof of thatch, a good harvest, a warm blanket before the snow. The sun dips lower still, and the sky turns to soft streaks of pink and violet. The fields glow like embers, the light slowly fading into shadow. When you finally reach the village, the air smells of wood smoke and cooking fires. The cottages stand close together, their windows glowing faintly with candlelight. You pass neighbors calling to one another, exchanging brief words and smiles before retreating indoors. A child runs past, laughing, a small dog chasing at their heels. The sight brings a quiet warmth to your chest. The day's labor may be done, but the heartbeat of the village continues, steady, enduring, and human. You pause near the communal well, setting your tools down beside it. The wooden bucket creaks as it's lowered, splashing faintly as it meets the water below. You draw it up, the rope rough against your palms, and take a long drink. The water is cold and sweet, washing away the dryness of the day. Around you, others do the same, their laughter soft, their faces relaxed. The air hums with the calm of evening, that peaceful lull between the day's struggle and the night's quiet. Someone nearby tells a story, an old legend about a wandering monk who once blessed the fields with rain after a summer of drought. The tale shifts with each telling, but the heart of it remains, that sometimes Mercy comes when it's least expected. The group listens quietly, the fading sunlight turning everything to soft gold. When the story ends, there's a pause, then a murmur of approval. It's not hope exactly, but something like it, a quiet faith that tomorrow will come, as it always has. As the first stars appear in the twilight sky, you gather your tools once more and head toward home. The day has been long, but the laughter, the gossip, the small shared moments have made it bearable. These are the things that make life in the village more than just survival. They are its pulse, its warmth, its soul. And as you walk the final stretch back to your cottage, the glow of the hearthlight waiting for you ahead, you realize that in this small world of toil and tenderness, you have everything that truly matters. The peace of the village lingers only briefly before the pull of duty calls once more. After the brief chatter and shared drink by the well, you pick up your hoe and scythe again, the wood still warm from the day's heat. The steward's bell rings faintly in the distance, summoning all who labor back to the fields for the final stretch of work before evening. The sound carries through the air, slow and measured, marking the rhythm of a life bound by hours and bells. The path to the fields is quieter now, the earlier laughter replaced by a steady silence. Everyone walks with the heavy gait of those who have spent their strength, but must still give a little more. The shadows grow longer across the path, stretching like fingers of dusk. Birds chatter softly in the hedgerows, and the scent of turned earth fills the cooling air. There's a certain calmness in this return, a quiet acceptance of the cycle that repeats, day after day. The land gives, but only if it's taken care of, and the peasants, bound to it as surely as roots to soil, understand that truth better than anyone. As you step into the open fields once more, the sun has begun its slow descent toward the horizon. The light turns golden, soft, and hazy, spilling across the land in warm hues. The wind that had slept through midday now wakes again, rushing through the stalks of grain and cooling the sweat on your skin. The work resumes almost automatically, the creak of wood, the swish of blades, the soft thud of earth. The rhythm returns, slower now, heavier, but no less steady. You move through the rows, striking the soil with practiced motions, your mind drifting somewhere between thought and silence. Each swing feels like an echo of the morning's labor, but somehow gentler, less demanding. The worst of the heat has passed, and in its place comes a deep stillness, the kind that only the closing hours of the day can bring. The sun glints off the metal of your tool, flashes of light flickering in time with your breath. Your body aches, but you no longer notice it in the same way. Pain has become a companion, not an enemy. It reminds you that you are alive, still moving, still enduring. Around you, the others work in near silence, the earlier conversations replaced by the quiet sounds of determination. The only voices now are those of the wind and the occasional call of a bird returning to its nest. A man a few paces away hums softly under his breath, a simple tune, wordless and slow, keeping pace with the rhythm of his swing. The sound is strangely comforting, a reminder that you are never truly alone in this life, even when words are few. The steward rides past once more, his figure outlined against the low sun. His horse's hooves press deep into the soil, and dust rises with every step. He says little this time, content to observe. Perhaps he knows that at this hour, no one would dare slacken their pace. His shadow passes over you for a moment, long and sharp, and then he continues on, heading toward the manor where light will still burn when your own cottage goes dark. You watch him go, the faint trace of envy replaced by something quieter, resignation, perhaps, or simply peace. Every life has its place, and yours is here, among the rows of earth and the fading light. As you work, the scent of the evening drifts through the air. The sharp tang of fresh-cut grass, the sweetness of drying hay, the faint smoke of distant hearths, where fires are being rekindled. You can almost imagine the warmth of your own fire, the glow against the cottage walls, the soft murmur of your family waiting inside. The thought gives you a second wind, a small spark of energy that carries you through the last hour of labor. The sun dips lower, touching the edge of the horizon, and the light changes. It becomes softer, redder, wrapping everything in a warm glow. Shadows stretch long across the field, and each movement of your scythe sends small motes of dust and pollen swirling through the air, glittering like tiny stars. The beauty of it catches you off guard for a moment. Even here, in toil and fatigue, the world offers its quiet grace, a reminder that life, though hard, is still filled with wonder if one knows where to look. The bell rings again, slow, deep, final. The sound rolls over the fields, announcing the end of labor for the day. You lower your tool, exhaling a long, steady breath, feeling the weight of relief settle through your body. The others pause as well, their movements stilling like waves after a storm. A few voices rise in soft conversation. Some laugh quietly, and the field slowly empties as the workers begin their journey home once more. You gather your tools, brushing the dirt from your hands. Your palms are sore, small blisters forming where the wood has rubbed against your skin. It's nothing new. They'll harden again soon enough. You sling the scythe across your shoulder, its blade glinting faintly in the sunset. The air is cool now, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and distant fires. You take one last look across the land, the golden fields bathed in fading light, and for a moment you feel something close to pride. This is the work of your hands, your sweat, your time. It may never be yours to own, but it bears your mark all the same. As you begin the walk back to the village, the sky deepens from gold to rose, from rose to purple. The first stars begin to show in the growing dusk, faint pinpricks of silver in the vast expanse. The air hums softly with the sounds of crickets and the distant lowing of cattle returning to their pens. The day is ending, but its rhythm continues, flowing into the quiet of evening. You walk slowly, savoring the cool breeze against your skin, the ache in your muscles, the peace that follows honest labor. By the time you reach the edge of the village, the bell has fallen silent, replaced by the soft music of daily life winding down, the clatter of pots, the laughter of children, the murmur of voices carried on the wind. The sky above glows with the last light of day, and the smell of supper drifts through the air. Another day has passed, as countless others have before, and though tomorrow will bring the same rhythm of toil, you find comfort in that constancy. It is the steady heartbeat of your world, and within it you find your place. The sun sinks low behind the hills, bleeding warm light across the sky. The fields, once alive with motion and labor, have fallen still. Only the faint whisper of wind moves through the tall grass, brushing against the stalks like the breath of the earth itself. The long day of work has ended, and the land rests now, its surface glowing gold and amber under the final light of the sun. You stand at the edge of the field, your scythe resting against your shoulder, watching the world shift from toil to calm. The air feels softer now, heavy with the scent of cut grain and fading heat. You take a slow breath, filling your lungs with the cool, damp air that settles over the ground. Each exhale carries the weight of the day, the sweat, the strain, the quiet pride of having done what needed to be done. Around you, others linger too. No one rushes home immediately. The fields at dusk are sacred in their own way, a time of stillness before the night claims everything. A few workers sit in the grass, murmuring softly, their laughter gentle and low. The sound feels warm, human, alive against the vast hush of the open land. A soft orange glow lingers on the horizon, painting everything in warm tones. The shadows stretch long, reaching from the distant trees toward the cottages in the distance. You can see the faint trails of smoke rising from chimneys already lit, curling upward in thin spirals. The first stars appear, small and hesitant in the pale sky. The bells of the manor chapel toll once more, a slower, gentler sound than before, marking the close of the day and the call to prayer. You bow your head briefly, whispering a quiet thanks for food, for breath, for another day survived. The prayer is simple, but it steadies your heart. You begin the walk home across the soft, uneven ground. The tools clink lightly against each other as they rest over your shoulder, a rhythm that matches your slow steps. The cool wind brushes your face, tugging gently at your cloak. The land feels different now, not empty, but peaceful, as though it's exhaling after the long strain of the day. The crows call from the hedgerows, their dark silhouettes gliding through the orange sky. Somewhere nearby, a stream gurgles faintly, catching the last bits of light on its surface. You pass a few fellow villagers on the road. They greet you with quiet nods, too tired for words, but the warmth in their eyes is enough. Everyone shares the same fatigue, the same sense of earned rest. A woman ahead carries a bundle of kindling tied with rope, her back bent beneath the weight, but her steps steady and sure. Two children run beside her, laughing softly as they chase each other in circles, their joy unbroken by the long day. You smile faintly at the sight, reminded that even here, in a life of labor, happiness finds its way in small, persistent forms. As you draw closer to the village, the sounds of evening grow stronger. The bleating of goats being herded to their pens, the clatter of wooden buckets, the distant bark of a dog. The cottages glow with flickering light from within, tiny beacons against the darkening sky. The smell of wood smoke and cooking fills the air, stews simmering, bread warming by the hearth, herbs hanging from beams to dry. These scents are the fragrance of safety, of home. They wrap around you like a familiar blanket. You pause for a moment at the crest of a small hill, looking back over the fields. The view is quiet and vast. The long rows of grain shimmer softly in the twilight, a sea of gold fading into shadow. You can still see the faint outlines of the workers who linger, small figures scattered across the land, finishing the last of their tasks, or simply watching the sunset as you are. The sight humbles you. For all the hardship of this life, there's beauty in its rhythm, in the way each day begins and ends the same, in the steady certainty that tomorrow will come again with the dawn. The church bell rings one final time, its deep tone rolling through the valley like a heartbeat. The sound marks the moment when the world begins to shift from labor to rest. You cross yourself quietly, then continue down the path. The village grows closer with each step, the light from your cottage flickering faintly in the distance. Your body aches, but it's a good ache, the kind that promises rest earned through honest work. At the edge of the village, you see a group of men gathered near the well, sharing a last drink of ale before heading home. They raise their mugs to you as you pass, offering small smiles and tired jokes. You stop for a moment, accepting a sip from one of them. The ale is warm and thin, but it tastes of camaraderie, of belonging. You laugh softly at a jest about the steward's sour face, and the sound feels easy, natural, real. In this fading light, class and rank blur. All are simply people bound by the same rhythm of survival. When you finally reach your cottage, the door is slightly ajar, and the warm flicker of firelight spills out into the twilight. You step inside, greeted by the familiar scent of smoke, stew, and hay. The sight of your family, weary, smiling, alive, fills your chest with quiet gratitude. You set your tools by the wall, their work done for the day, and take your seat near the hearth. The warmth seeps into your skin, easing the chill from your bones. Outside, the fields grow darker still, the last light fading from the sky. The stars bloom in full now, their glow reflected faintly in the puddles left by yesterday's rain. The land sleeps, wrapped in silence, waiting for another dawn. And as you sit by the fire, a bowl of warmed food in your hands and the voices of your loved ones filling the room, you feel something deep and simple: peace. the kind that belongs to those who have given all they have to the day and have nothing left to prove but that they endured. The door closes behind you with a soft creak, shutting out the cool evening air and the long, weary world beyond. Inside, the familiar warmth of the cottage wraps around you like a heavy blanket. The fire burns low but steady in the hearth, its glow dancing across the rough wooden beams of the ceiling. The scent of smoke, herbs, and simmering broth fills the air, a fragrance of home, of safety, of survival. You set your tools aside by the door, their wooden handles darkened with the sweat of the day, and feel the weight lift from your shoulders, if only for a while. The cottage is small, but it holds everything that matters. The walls are made of wattle and daub, patched and uneven, yet strong enough to keep out the wind. A simple wooden table stands in the center of the room, worn smooth by years of use. A bundle of drying onions hangs from a beam, and on a small stool beside the hearth sits your spouse, stirring the pot that will soon become supper. The firelight flickers across their face, casting soft shadows that make the moment feel timeless. You can hear the quiet bubbling of the stew, the rhythmic scrape of the spoon, the faint crackle of burning wood. These sounds are music, the gentle hum of life at day's end. A child's laughter breaks the calm as your youngest rushes toward you, small hands reaching up eagerly. You lift them with a grunt, your tired arms straining, but the joy in their face melts away every ache. They smell of hay and smoke and a wild scent of grass, a mix that belongs entirely to the countryside. They chatter excitedly, telling you about some great adventure in the yard, a found feather, a beetle trapped in a jar, a daring climb up the woodpile. You listen, nodding with a smile, your eyes heavy but your heart light. These small moments are what keep the darkness of the world at bay. Your older children sit by the hearth, one mending a torn sleeve, the other carving a small toy from a scrap of wood. Their focus is quiet, steady, shaped by a life that teaches patience from the cradle. The firelight catches the blade of the knife as it shaves away thin curls of wood, each one falling like a sliver of golden straw. You watch them work and think of the future, how they'll grow, marry, and take their own place in this endless rhythm of seasons and soil. It's a thought both comforting and sad, but mostly it feels right. The land holds them as it held you. Your spouse sets a bowl of stew on the table, thin but fragrant. The smell of onions, leeks, and a hint of barley fills the room. You take your place at the table, the wood rough beneath your hands. The others join you, each with their own simple bowl. The meal begins not with words, but with silence, the kind born of hunger and gratitude. The first spoonful warms you from the inside out. It's not rich, not seasoned like the meals in the manor, but it's honest food, born of your own work and the grace of the land. You can taste the day in it, the sweat, the sun, the soil. After a while, conversation drifts softly through the air. Stories of the day, small victories, bits of news from neighbors. You mention the steward's visit, and your spouse shakes their head knowingly. Someone laughs at the memory of a worker slipping in the mud earlier, and the children giggle, eyes wide with amusement. The talk flows easily, like the stream that runs near the village, simple, unhurried, unending. Outside, the night deepens, but the light inside your home remains steady, golden, and alive. When the bowls are empty, you push your chair back and let your body relax for the first time all day. The warmth of the hearth seeps into your bones. You can feel your eyelids growing heavy, but you resist sleep for a little while longer, savoring the peace. Your spouse moves quietly about the room, cleaning the bowls, tending to the fire. The children settle near the hearth, their laughter fading into murmurs. The world has grown small again, just these walls, these voices, this fire. You reach for your mug of ale, taking a slow sip. It's weak and warm, but comforting all the same. You look around the room. The flicker of light on rough wood, the shadows dancing along the walls, the faint smell of smoke mingled with earth and herbs. Everything feels still, as if time itself has slowed to match your breath. You think of how many nights have ended this way, how many generations have sat by fires just like this one, sharing food, stories, and the quiet satisfaction of simply surviving another day. Outside, the wind picks up, rattling the shutters softly. The sound is familiar, soothing even. You know this world, its smells, its sounds, its hardships, and its small, quiet joys. You belong to it completely. You glance toward the small window, where a sliver of moonlight seeps through the cracks, and see your reflection faintly in the glass, lined, tired, but alive. The lines on your face tell stories of every season you've lived through, every harvest, every winter endured. Your spouse sits beside you now, hands folded, eyes half closed in the firelight. For a long moment, neither of you speaks. You simply sit together, listening to the wood crackle and the soft breathing of your children as they drift toward sleep. There is a peace here that the manor's wealth could never buy, a peace born of purpose, of labor, of love held close in humble spaces. When the last log in the hearth shifts, sending up a small shower of sparks, you rise slowly. The day is done. You hang your cloak by the door, check the latch, and whisper a quiet prayer of thanks under your breath. Outside, the fields rest under the watch of the moon, and within these walls, the warmth of family glows steady against the darkness. You crawl into your straw-filled bed, the furs pulled tight against the chill, and the last thing you hear before sleep claims you is the soft murmur of voices. Your family, your life, your world, fading into dreams. The night deepens outside, pressing gently against the walls of your cottage. The wind whispers through the cracks in the thatch, its voice soft and rhythmic, like a lullaby carried from the woods. Inside, the fire burns low, its glow a living heartbeat in the dim room. The air is warm and heavy with the scent of smoke and stew, the lingering traces of supper mingling with the earthy smell of damp wool and straw. The day's labor is over. The world beyond your door has gone still. Now it is time for stories. You sit by the hearth, legs stretched out toward the heat. The flames crackle lazily, throwing long shadows that dance across the walls. Your family gathers close, drawn to the warmth as much as to one another. The youngest leans against your knee, their eyes heavy but bright, while the older ones sit cross-legged on the floor, their faces painted gold by the firelight. Your spouse mends a torn sleeve quietly, the thread glinting between their fingers. For a long moment there is silence, not empty, but full of comfort, the silence that belongs to homes where people know one another's hearts without needing words. Then, as if on cue, someone asks for a story. The request comes softly, half a whisper, but it stirs the air like a spark in the ashes. You smile faintly, resting your chin on your hand. A story, you repeat, pretending to think. What sort of story? The answer comes at once, the same one it always is. Tell us about the man who met the devil in the forest. The older children grin, and even your spouse hides a small smile. It's a tale you've told 100 times, yet it never loses its hold. You clear your throat, your voice low and slow, meant to soothe as much as entertain. The flickering light makes your words seem to shimmer in the air as you begin. They say it happened long ago, on a night much like this one. A poor woodcutter, not so different from us, stayed too long in the forest. The sun had set, and the paths were lost in fog. He carried only his axe and his courage, though both grew heavy with each step. He heard strange sounds, not birds, not beasts, and before long he came to a clearing where a man stood by a fire. But the fire burned blue, and the stranger's eyes were black as coal. The children leaned closer, their faces rapt. The flames popped softly, perfectly timed with the rhythm of your story. The tale unfolds slowly, woven from pieces of memory and imagination, half-truths and inherited whispers. You tell of bargains made and tricks played, of how the clever woodcutter escaped with his soul intact by outwitting the devil himself. There is laughter when the trick is revealed, and a small gasp when the devil vanishes in smoke. When the tale ends, the room falls into silence again, a silence that hums with wonder. Your spouse shakes their head with mock seriousness. And that, they say, is why you don't go wandering off after dark. The children laugh, though one glances at the window, where the shadows seem just a little too deep. You chuckle softly and toss another log on the fire, watching the sparks spiral upward like tiny stars. The warmth grows, filling the room with golden light. The wind outside shifts, and the thatch rustles overhead like distant footsteps. The youngest moves closer to you, nestling under your arm, comforted by your presence. You think back to your own childhood, to nights just like this one, when your father's voice told stories of saints and spirits, of brave knights and foolish kings, of miracles and curses. Some tales were warnings, some were dreams, but all were ways of making sense of the world. In a life ruled by the land and the seasons, stories were more than entertainment. They were memory, faith, and protection. They taught lessons about greed and pride, about love and patience, about the unseen things that watch from the edges of the night. You speak again, softer this time, telling a shorter tale, one about the will-o'-the-wisps that lead travelers astray. Never follow the lights. You warn, your tone half serious, half teasing. They'll dance just out of reach, calling you deeper into the marsh until the ground swallows you whole. The room grows quiet again. Even the older ones glance toward the window, just for a moment. You smile inwardly, remembering how fear and fascination live side by side in the hearts of the young. Your spouse hums a slow tune, an old village song about good harvests and safe returns. You join in softly, your voice low and steady. The melody drifts through the cottage like smoke, winding between the beams and out into the night beyond. It's not a song meant for beauty, but for comfort, the kind of song that reminds weary souls they belong somewhere. The youngest child's eyes begin to close, their breathing deep and even. One by one, the others grow quiet too, lulled by the fire, the warmth, the song. When the last notes fade, you sit in silence again, watching the flames burn lower. The coals glow red, pulsing faintly in the dark. Outside, the wind sighs against the walls, and an owl calls from somewhere deep in the forest. You feel the weight of the day settle over you fully now, the heaviness of fatigue mixed with the softness of peace. You reach down to pull a wool blanket over the sleeping children, their faces calm and flushed with warmth. Your spouse sets aside the mending, stretching with a tired groan before settling beside you. The two of you sit together for a while, neither speaking, listening to the fire's gentle crackle. You think of the stories still untold, those of saints and miracles, of lost travelers and kind spirits, of the old gods who still linger in the corners of memory. They will wait for another night. For now, this quiet is enough. The last ember flickers, dimming slowly. You stir the ashes with a stick, watching as the glow fades to faint gray. Then you rise, adding one last piece of wood to keep the warmth alive until morning. The room darkens, but the peace remains. You whisper a final blessing, the same words your parents once spoke over you, and let your eyes rest on the fire one last time. Beyond the door, the night deepens, endless and still. But inside your small cottage, stories linger like ghosts of warmth in the air, carrying the voices of generations who sat by their own fires, speaking the same words into the same gentle dark. The fire burns low now, its light soft and steady, a warm pulse against the hush of night. The children sleep near the hearth, bundled beneath furs and wool, their faces calm, untouched by the weight of the day. Outside, the wind has quieted, and only the faint crackle of the embers and the slow rhythm of breathing fill the cottage. You sit beside your spouse, the two of you alone in the dim glow, the world reduced to this small, tender circle of warmth. There are no grand gestures here, no words of poetry or riches to bind love. Life in the village leaves little room for such things. Instead, affection grows quietly, built from shared labor, from small kindnesses, from understanding that endures through hardship. You glance at your spouse, the firelight flickering across their face, and you think of the years behind you, the storms weathered together, the long winters, the good harvests, and the bad. Love in your world is not a fleeting spark, but a steady flame, tended like the hearth, constant, necessary, and alive. You remember the day you were wed. It was simple, like everything else in your life. The church bells rang softly, and the air was thick with the scent of hay and flowers. There was no silk, no jewels, no feasting beyond what the village could share. A loaf of bread, a jug of ale, a promise spoken before God and neighbors. The memory feels distant now, worn smooth like a stone in your hand, but it still warms you when you turn it over in your mind. You were young then, uncertain and hopeful. You didn't yet know the full weight of what marriage would mean, how it would become both burden and blessing, a bond that holds through the seasons of joy and hunger alike. Your spouse moves beside you, shifting the log in the fire with a small iron poker. Sparks leap upward, scattering into the chimney's dark throat. The light touches their hands, hands calloused like your own, shaped by work. You know those hands as well as your own. They've kneaded dough, soothed fevered brows, lifted children, tended wounds, gathered herbs. In this world, love is spoken most clearly through labor, through the act of care, through the willingness to endure together. You speak softly, words barely above a whisper. A joke about the day, a shared thought about one of the children, a memory that drifts up unbidden. The conversation is slow, gentle, unhurried. Each sentence lingers in the air like the glow of the fire, fading only when the next begins. The bond between you has grown quiet over the years, not from distance, but from depth. You no longer need to fill the silence with words to understand one another. The look in your eyes, the tilt of a smile, the simple reaching of hands says everything that needs saying. You think of the marriages around you, neighbors who quarrel loudly, others who live more like partners in survival than in love. Life here doesn't offer much luxury for romance. Yet, in small ways, affection endures. A husband carving a wooden comb for his wife. A wife saving the first ripe apple for her husband's meal. A hand laid gently on a shoulder in passing. These gestures, small and ordinary, are what keep the world soft amid all its rough edges. They are what make the long days bearable and the cold nights warm. You lean back, letting your head rest against the wall. The rough wood presses into your scalp, but you barely notice. You watch as your spouse hums softly, an old song about harvest and home, about love that lasts longer than summer. The melody drifts through the room, low and soothing, almost a lullaby. It's the same tune sung at weddings, at births, and sometimes at farewells. It's the sound of continuity, of life carrying on no matter how hard the years may be. The children stir in their sleep, one murmuring faintly before settling again. You smile, feeling the simple weight of belonging. For all the hardship that marks your days, there is strength in this bond, this shared life of sweat and soil, laughter and prayer. You've seen others lose it through death or misfortune, and the thought fills you with quiet gratitude. You whisper a blessing under your breath, a prayer that this peace will last as long as the two of you draw breath. Your spouse catches your gaze and smiles, tired, knowing, and kind. You reach out, your hands finding each other's in the dim light. The touch is familiar, the skin rough but warm. You sit like that for a while, neither speaking nor moving, as the fire sinks lower into glowing coals. The silence feels sacred, a stillness that belongs only to those who have lived and labored side by side for years beyond counting. Eventually, your spouse rises, moving quietly to check the door latch and pull an extra cover over the children. You watch them, the small motions done with care, and your chest fills with a quiet tenderness. When they return, you both settle into your place by the hearth once more, letting the fading heat warm your feet. The wind sighs outside, brushing against the walls, but inside, all is still. You close your eyes and think of the vows spoken so long ago, not as words in a church, but as daily acts that have become the language of your love. Waking early to tend the fire, sharing the last piece of bread, standing together when the harvest failed, laughing in the rare moments of ease. These are your promises, renewed not with ceremony, but with life itself. The fire dims until only a faint red glow remains, the last light of the day flickering in your shared gaze. You lean closer, resting your forehead against your spouse's shoulder. Neither of you speaks. There is no need. The love that lives in this small, humble room is quiet, but it endures, not as a spark, but as a slow, steady ember, glowing softly in the dark, refusing to fade. The night outside is deep and silent, the kind of darkness that feels ancient, untouched by lamps or noise, stretching endlessly beyond the small circle of your world. Inside the cottage, the embers still glow faintly in the hearth, pulsing red and gold. The air is thick with the scent of smoke and earth. Your family sleeps soundly now, their breathing soft and even, but you remain awake, your thoughts drifting like the wind that hums against the thatch above. In the stillness, the old beliefs stir, the half-whispered truths and warnings passed down through generations of peasants who, like you, lived by both faith and superstition. For all the church's sermons and priests' stern words, the villagers' hearts still cling to the older ways. The quiet rituals, the secret signs, the small offerings made to things unseen. Life is too uncertain to trust in one kind of faith alone. You have seen the crops fail after months of prayer, watched storms sweep across the fields despite blessings from the altar. So you cross yourself when the church bell rings yes, but you also toss salt over your shoulder when someone sneezes, and you leave a crust of bread at the edge of the field for the spirits of the land. These things are not rebellion. They are survival, stitched deep into the bones of those who till the soil. You remember your mother whispering charms as she mended clothes by the fire, words meant to keep the evil eye away, to protect a newborn, to guard the home from misfortune. She would hang sprigs of rosemary above the door and tie bits of iron to the cradle. The saints protect the soul, she would say, but the old ways protect the flesh. As a child, you never questioned it. Even now, grown and weary, you still find comfort in those rituals. When thunder rolls, you trace a cross in the air. When a crow lands on the roof, you murmur a prayer. You do not know whether it works, but it feels right, and that is enough. The church bell tolls in the distance, its sound low and solemn, drifting through the dark. It is the final bell of the night, the one that marks the passing of the last hour before midnight. The tone is familiar, deep, resonant, both holy and haunting. You close your eyes and listen, letting the sound settle over you like a blanket. The bell speaks of order, of the presence of something greater, not just the Lord of the manor, but the Lord of heaven, whose watchful eye never sleeps. Yet, as the echo fades, the silence feels vast again, as though even God himself has turned inward for the night. You rise quietly, careful not to wake anyone, and move toward the small wooden cross hanging on the wall. Its edges are smooth from years of touch, the wood darkened by smoke and prayer. You kneel before it, your knees pressing into the packed earth floor. Your words come softly, half whispered, half thought, a prayer of thanks, a plea for strength, a blessing for your family and the fields. It's not a formal prayer, not the Latin of the priest's mass, but one born of habit and heart, shaped by your life, not by books. When you finish, you touch your forehead to the ground and feel a quiet peace spread through you. As you rise, your eyes drift to the small charms scattered around the cottage, a horseshoe nailed above the door, a bowl of salt by the window, a dried herb bundle tied with twine. Each one has its meaning. The horseshoe keeps away wandering spirits. The salt purifies and protects. The herbs, sage, rosemary, and rue, keep sickness from entering the home. The priest would frown at these things, call them foolish relics of pagan days. But when the storms come, even he lights candles and whispers blessings against the thunder. Perhaps in the end, all faiths are different tongues speaking the same hope, that tomorrow will come, that the darkness will pass, that the harvest will return. You move to the window and peer out. The village sleeps beneath a pale moon, its rooftops silver and still. The church tower stands tall at the hill's crest, its shadow stretching across the fields. You can almost hear the faint murmur of the priest's own prayers, drifting from his small house beside the chapel. He is a kind man, old and soft-spoken, more farmer than scholar. He blesses the fields in spring, baptizes the children, buries the dead, the eternal cycle, as predictable as the turning of the seasons. You trust him, as much as you trust the soil beneath your feet, but you also know that even he cannot answer every question whispered in the night. Sometimes strange things happen in the village, things no sermon explains. A cow gives no milk, though it's healthy. Bread refuses to rise no matter how long it's left by the fire. A shadow moves at the edge of the woods, though no one is there. When these things occur, the villagers gather quietly, speaking in low voices. They hang charms on their doors, burn herbs in the hearth, whisper the names of saints and spirits alike. To live here is to live between worlds, one foot in faith, the other in fear. And so you honor both, because both shape your days. A memory stirs of a night when illness swept through the village, taking the old and the young alike. The priest walked from house to house, his candle trembling in the wind, his prayers trembling too. But the wise woman who lived near the woods brewed a tea of roots and leaves that eased the fever. The priest blessed her after that, though before he had called her a witch. The villagers still leave her offerings on her doorstep when they pass, just in case. You have done the same. Better to stay on the side of mercy, even when you do not understand it. The fire in the hearth flickers low, a single flame clinging to life. You return to your spot beside it, sitting cross-legged, your back against the wall. The warmth touches your skin, chasing away the chill that creeps in from the dark. You think of all the unseen things that walk in that darkness, not ghosts, not demons, but the quiet mysteries of the world, the wind that bends the grass, the stars that watch in silence, the dreams that come without warning. You do not fear them. They are part of life, as real as hunger, as certain as dawn. The bell tolls once more, softer now, distant, as though fading into the earth itself. You whisper a final prayer, crossing yourself out of habit, then glance toward your sleeping family. The light from the dying fire rests on their faces, gentle and golden. You smile faintly, the peace of faith and of superstition settling over you like the warmth of a blanket. Tomorrow will come. The bell will ring again. The sun will rise, and you will rise with it, guided by the same rhythm that has ruled every day of your life. The balance between labor and rest, between fear and faith, between the known and the unseen. The last ember in the hearth gives a faint hiss before falling still, its glow fading into soft gray ash. The air inside the cottage grows cooler, touched by the damp breath of the night seeping through the walls. You pull the fur tighter around your shoulders and listen to the silence, to the rhythm of the sleeping world. Outside, The village has gone utterly quiet. The kind of quiet that feels ancient, deep, and whole. A silence so complete, it seems the earth itself is holding its breath. You rise carefully, stepping over the sleeping forms of your children, their small hands curled against their faces. The fire's faint light brushes against their cheeks, and for a moment you simply watch them. They look peaceful, untouched by the endless worry that shadows the waking hours. Childhood in your world is short, but for now they dream in the soft, golden light of the hearth, safe from the chill beyond the door. You move toward the window, pushing the wooden shutter open just enough to peer outside. The night greets you like a secret. The moon hangs high, a silver coin in a sky of black velvet. The stars burn quietly around it, countless and eternal. The fields stretch out beneath their glow, a rolling sea of darkness, broken only by the pale glimmer of dew on the grass. You can see the faint outline of the church tower on the hill, its cross silhouetted against the sky, a silent guardian watching over the sleeping village. No lights burn in the windows now. The fires have gone out one by one. The world is reduced to shadow and starlight. You step outside for a moment, careful not to wake anyone. The night air touches your skin, cool, clean, and filled with the faint scent of damp soil and distant smoke. It feels alive, almost breathing. The path beneath your feet is soft with mud, and the only sound is the distant call of an owl somewhere near the forest's edge. You tilt your head to listen. The sound is lonely, haunting, but not unwelcome. It belongs to the night, just as you do. From where you stand, you can see the outlines of other cottages, dark and quiet, their roofs glistening faintly with moisture. Smoke from the last dying fires rises thin and gray, dissolving into the cold air. The entire village seems to sleep as one, a single body resting after a long day's labor. You can almost feel its pulse, slow and steady, hidden beneath the earth. The silence is not empty, but full of breath, of life, of peace earned through toil. The moonlight spills across the fields, touching the freshly cut stalks with a pale shimmer. In the distance, a mist begins to rise, curling low along the ground, wrapping the land in soft veils. You've seen nights like this before, nights when the fog seems almost alive, shifting and moving with its own slow rhythm. The elders in the village say that such mist carries spirits, the wandering souls of those who died in the fields. They mean no harm, only to remember the work they loved. You do not fear them. You bow your head and whisper a quiet blessing, as your parents once taught you. Rest easy and guard the living. The wind picks up slightly, stirring the thatch above you, carrying the faint sound of the church bell, swaying gently in its tower. It does not ring fully, only creaks with the movement, a ghost of sound that drifts down through the mist. It feels like the earth itself sighing. You close your eyes for a moment and breathe deeply, feeling the world's slow heartbeat, the pulse of land, sky, and soul all moving together. The night feels vast, and you feel small within it, but not lost. You are part of it, just as the stars are part of the sky. You linger a little longer, watching the horizon. The forest stands dark and still, a wall of shadow at the edge of sight. In the distance, you catch the faint glimmer of the stream as it winds through the meadow, reflecting the moonlight like a thread of silver. The air is cold enough now that your breath clouds in front of you. You pull your cloak tighter and listen. The far-off bark of a dog, the rustle of a field mouse, the soft creak of a cart left in the lane. Each sound feels sharper, more alive in the quiet. There is beauty here, raw and simple, hidden in the folds of the dark. You think of how many nights like this have passed, unchanged through the centuries. How many peasants before you have stood beneath the same sky, breathing the same cool air, listening to the same owl's call. The thought humbles you, but it also comforts you. Time moves slowly here, like the river in spring, carving its path not in haste, but with patience. Generations come and go, but the rhythm remains: dawn, labor, dusk, rest, and the eternal quiet of night. After a while, you turn back toward the cottage. The door creaks softly as you open it, the familiar warmth of the room wrapping around you once more. The fire has burned to its last embers, and you crouch beside it, stirring the ashes gently. A faint glow emerges, just enough to keep the chill away. You whisper a short prayer, half to God, half to the old spirits of the land, asking for a peaceful night and the strength for another day. Then you settle onto your straw mattress, the rough wool scratching your skin, and pull the furs close around you. The darkness presses close, but it no longer feels heavy. It feels like the embrace of the world itself, vast, calm, eternal. You listen to the sounds of your family sleeping, the faint crackle of the dying fire, the soft wind outside. The village lies still beneath the stars, every cottage a small heartbeat in the body of the earth. You breathe deeply, your eyes drifting closed, and in that moment between waking and sleep, you feel the deep, ancient peace that only those who labor by the land ever truly know. The fields rest, the people rest. The world, for now, is whole. Sleep comes slowly, like mist creeping across the fields at dawn. You lie still beneath the firs, your body heavy from the day's labor, but your mind drifts like smoke from the dying fire. The air inside the cottage is cool now, filled with the soft sounds of sleep, your family's steady breathing, the occasional creak of wood as the house settles into silence. The scent of ash, earth, and dried herbs lingers around you, a quiet reminder of the world beyond dreams. You close your eyes, and the boundary between the waking and the imagined begins to blur. At first, your thoughts wander through the familiar, the fields, the animals, the rhythm of the village. But slowly, dreams take shape, weaving themselves from the threads of longing and memory. You see yourself in another season, perhaps spring, when the air is warm and the soil soft beneath your hands. The fields are alive with green shoots, and laughter drifts across the land as neighbors work side by side. There is music, faint and distant, a fiddle, a drum, a song hummed by a woman with flowers in her hair. The dream feels light, almost weightless, free from the burdens that cling to waking life. You dream of plenty, of full harvests and granaries overflowing, of bread thick with butter, of bellies full through winter. You see your children grown strong, their faces bright with joy, no longer hungry, no longer cold. You see your spouse at peace, their hands soft from rest rather than worn from work. In your dream, the cottage glows warm, the air rich with laughter and song. The world seems fairer, kinder, balanced at last. These are the dreams that come often, born from the ache of what could be, but seldom is. The dreams shift as dreams do. Now you walk through the village at dawn. The church bell rings softly, but it no longer calls you to labor, only to prayer, to gratitude. The manor stands quiet on the hill, its lord absent or perhaps simply indifferent, and the people move freely across the land. You imagine owning the soil you till, planting crops not for another's table, but your own. You imagine a world where the sweat of your brow feeds your family first, not the storehouses of the powerful. It is a dangerous dream, one that would never be spoken aloud, but in the safety of sleep, it feels pure and possible. The dream deepens. You find yourself walking through the forest, where moonlight filters through the leaves, and the air hums with the whisper of unseen things. It's a place of both fear and comfort, the world beyond the plow and the village bell. In the distance, you see figures, not men or beasts, but shapes made of light and shadow. They do not threaten you. Instead, they watch silently as you pass, ancient guardians of the wild. One of them nods, and though no words are spoken, you understand. The land sees you. The earth remembers you. Every grain of soil you've touched, every seed you've planted, is part of a greater rhythm that stretches beyond life itself. You awaken within the dream, a strange sensation, as if you've become aware that you're dreaming, but do not wish to wake. You're standing in a field of golden wheat, stretching farther than the eye can see. The sun is low, warm, and soft, the sky painted in colors too vivid for memory. You reach out to touch the grain, and it bends beneath your fingers like silk. The wind moves through it in waves, and the sound it makes is like distant singing. It's not the song of people, but of the land itself, the breath of time, endless and kind. You listen, and in that sound, you feel every moment of your life reflected back. The laughter, the pain, the hunger, the hope. None of it wasted, all of it belonging. The scene begins to fade as dreams do, but not in sorrow. You feel peace deep and grounding, as though the world has whispered a secret into your heart, that your life, small and humble as it may be, is part of something vast and eternal. The same sun that rises over kings and knights also warms your fields. The same stars that crown the heavens shine upon your roof. In the grand weave of existence, your thread may be small, but it is strong, and it holds the pattern together. You stir in your sleep, your hand brushing against your spouse's arm. They shift slightly, murmuring something soft and wordless. You smile faintly, even in slumber. The dream lingers, not as vivid image, but as feeling. Hope, quiet, stubborn hope. The kind that endures through famine and frost, through the cruelty of lords and the indifference of nature. It's the hope that keeps the fire burning, that sends you to the fields each morning, that teaches you to find beauty in the simplest things. The scent of bread, the warmth of a hand, the sound of birds at dawn. Outside, the world sleeps on. The moon drifts westward, and the stars slowly fade into the soft gray of early morning. The first hint of dawn brushes the edge of the sky, a faint promise of light to come. The village is still, not dead, but resting, gathering strength for the next cycle of toil and life. Somewhere, a rooster stirs, sensing what's to come. The dream slips away fully now, leaving behind its warmth like the last embers of a fire. You breathe deeply, your chest rising and falling in rhythm with the land itself. The air is cool, the silence whole. Though the day ahead will bring the same labor, the same aches, the same endless tasks, you carry with you something unseen, a quiet faith in the possibility of more. The dream's voice echoes faintly in your heart, soft as a prayer. Asterisk, life is hard, but it is yours. The world turns, and you endure. Asterisk, the sky beyond the shutters begins to lighten, the first bird calling to the dawn. Soon the village will stir again, the fields will awaken, and another day will begin. But for now, in this brief, fragile space between night and morning, your soul rests easy. The dreams of a better tomorrow are not gone, they are simply waiting for you to rise. The first whisper of dawn still hides beyond the horizon, and the world lies in that deep stillness that comes just before morning. The fire in the hearth has long gone out, leaving only faint trails of warmth clinging to the stones. You sleep deeply now, body heavy and mind drifting between dream and silence. The night outside has grown calm and vast. The stars still burn bright above the sleeping village, scattered like 1,000 tiny embers across the black velvet sky. The air is cool and damp, carrying with it the scent of soil, of wood smoke, of dew settling over the land you've tended all your life. The wind moves softly through the thatch above your head, making a gentle sound like the breathing of the earth itself. It's a sound you've known since childhood, the lullaby of fields and sky, the rhythm of nature that never ceases. It slides down the chimney, brushing faintly through the room, stirring the ashes in the hearth so that a few sparks flicker to life before fading again. Outside, the fields stretch endless and silent beneath the stars. The same stars your ancestors looked upon, the same ones your children will see when they grow. They have watched over this land for centuries, unmoving and eternal, their light as constant as the turning of the seasons. You shift slightly beneath the firs, your breath deep and even. The aches of the day have left your body, replaced by the slow pulse of rest. In your sleep, you dream not of work or struggle, but of simple, quiet things. The feeling of sunlight on your face, the smell of bread baking, the laughter of your children playing in the grass. The dreams are soft, without form, without worry. They feel like the gentle murmur of a river, flowing through your thoughts, smooth and eternal. Your soul, weary from the long day's labor, finds peace in the rhythm of the night. Outside, the wind sighs again, moving through the trees at the edge of the village. Their branches sway and whisper, and the sound travels through the still air like a song. Somewhere far off, an owl hoots its final call before retreating to its hollow. A fox slips silently between the cottages, its eyes glinting briefly in the starlight before disappearing into the tall grass. Even the animals of the night move softly here, respectful of this sleeping world. The village, so full of life and noise in the day, now lies hushed beneath the gaze of the heavens, a place of peace held in the gentle embrace of darkness. You are part of that stillness, your breath matching the rhythm of the wind outside. The earth beneath your home holds the memory of your steps, your work, your life. Every furrow you've turned, every seed you've planted, every calloused mark upon your hands has been written into its soil. And now, as you sleep, the land keeps watch over you, the same land that will call you back to labor when the sun rises, and one day, when your time is done, will welcome you back into its embrace. There is a strange, quiet comfort in that thought. The circle never ends. The fields feed the people tend the fields, and both return to the same dust beneath the same sky. The faintest light begins to bloom far to the east, a whisper of gray against the horizon. The stars begin to dim one by one, their long vigil ending as the first breath of morning begins to stir. The air shifts slightly, colder now, filled with the promise of another day. The rooster in the next cottage stirs, but does not yet crow, sensing the nearness of dawn. The church bell remains silent, waiting for the sun to show its first edge above the hills. It is the quietest moment of all, the fragile pause between night and morning, when the whole world seems to hover in balance, neither asleep nor awake. In your dream, you stand once more in the fields, barefoot in the soft earth, surrounded by golden light. The wind moves through the grain, brushing against your hands, whispering in a voice that sounds both familiar and ancient. You cannot tell whether it's the voice of God, of the land, or of your own soul, but it fills you with peace all the same. It tells you that life is not measured by ease or suffering, but by the simple act of enduring, of rising each day, of caring for what must be cared for, of finding beauty in what little the world gives. You nod, understanding without words. The dream fades, but the feeling remains. A small sound stirs you, the faint rustle of your spouse turning in their sleep beside you, the soft exhale of a child murmuring in a dream. You open your eyes for just a moment, the faintest glimmer of dawn filtering through the cracks in the shutter. The air is cold against your face, but the warmth beside you anchors you to this moment, this life. You sigh, a deep, contented sound, and close your eyes again. The stars fade completely now, their light swallowed by the coming day. The world begins to breathe once more. Faint movements, quiet sounds, the slow awakening of life. But you remain still, suspended in the last breath of night, resting in the comfort of all that is familiar, the scent of earth, the warmth of family, the soft hum of the wind. Soon the rooster will crow, the bell will ring, and another day will begin, a new cycle of toil, laughter, and endurance beneath the same endless sky. But for now, in this final moment before dawn, there is only peace. You, the land, and the heavens above rest together in perfect harmony. The night exhales, the wind settles, and sleep, deep, dreamless, and kind, carries you into the quiet heart of eternity. The dawn arrives softly, not with fanfare or sudden brilliance, but as a gentle lifting of darkness. The faint gray of morning stretches across the sky, brushing the edges of the thatched roofs, spilling through the cracks of the shutters, and settling over the quiet village. The first rooster calls, breaking the silence with a sound that feels both ancient and familiar. Another day begins, just as all the days before. Another step in the endless rhythm of life. You stir from sleep, the warmth of your family still beside you, and for a moment you simply breathe. The night's dreams fade, but the peace they left behind lingers in your chest, soft and steady like a heartbeat. Outside, the mist drapes itself over the fields once more, the world wrapped in its early morning veil. The scent of damp soil fills the air. Somewhere, a cow lows in the distance, and the faint ring of a bell from the church tower echoes across the land. It's the same sound that has marked every day of your life, calling you to the same work, the same earth, the same humble existence. Yet somehow it feels different now, gentler. The world, though unchanged, seems touched by something sacred, the quiet grace of endurance, the beauty of small things done with care. You stretch, rise slowly, and open the door to greet the new light. The air is cool against your skin, clean and pure. The horizon glows faintly with gold, the sun still hidden but near. You take in the sight of the village waking, smoke beginning to curl from chimneys, footsteps crunching on wet ground, soft voices calling to one another through the mist. Life stirs again, as it always does. There is comfort in that constancy, in knowing that the world will keep turning, that even the smallest lives leave echoes in its rhythm. You look toward the fields, your fields, though they belong to another. They wait quietly, patient and endless, ready to receive your labor again. And you will give it, because it is what you do, what you have always done. But as you step forward, you carry more than your tools. You carry the memory of the night's peace, the dreams of better days, the warmth of the hearth, and the love that filled your home. You carry the knowledge that even in the hardest life, beauty can be found, in laughter shared, in stories told by firelight, in the quiet moments that bind one day to the next. This has been Asterisk, a day in the life of a medieval peasant. POV sleep story. Asterisk, a small journey through the world of another time, told softly so you might rest deeply. Life then was simple, harsh, but full of meaning. And perhaps, in some way, it mirrors our own. Endless days, fleeting joys, quiet hopes, and the search for peace amid the noise of the world. If you've drifted to sleep along the way, that's perfectly fine. That's why we're here. And if you're still awake, I hope you feel a sense of calm, a little closer to the rhythm of a life lived slowly and fully centuries ago. Before you go, take a moment to subscribe to Asterisk History for Sleep Asterisk, so you'll always have another calm journey waiting when you need rest. Leave a comment too. Tell us what time you listen, or what kind of history you'd like to fall asleep to next. Maybe another night in the medieval world, or perhaps a day in ancient Rome, Victorian London, or the lost cities of the Silk Road. Thank you for listening, for dreaming, and for giving these quiet moments of history a home in your night. As the morning light begins to fill your room, or as you drift deeper into your dreams, know that the stories of the past are still alive, whispering softly to those who care to listen. Good night, or good morning, wherever you are. May your sleep be deep, your heart be light, and your dreams as gentle as the dawn.